Welcome to the Fallen State. I'm Jesse Lee Peterson. Thank you all so much for being with me. Remember, you can support the Fallen State now by becoming a member there on YouTube, or you can go to locals.com as well and support us. Thank you all in advance. I do appreciate it. And don't forget to check out my coffee. I have my own coffee, Punchy's Coffee. Punchy's Coffee. Go to jesseleepeterson.shop. I have with me August McLaughlin. She is a journalist, author, activist, and the host of Girl Boner Radio. What's a girl? Welcome.
Thank you, Jesse.
What's a girl boner?
A girl boner is when a woman or a girl who's, a teenager or something is just feeling excited about something. For adults, it means feeling turned on. And when I grew up, I learned that boys would get turned on and excited about things. And I learned some positive things about having like a boy's body, but I didn't really learn happy, positive things about being a girl. I learned some things that seemed scary, like I was gonna bleed and have cramps, and I didn't hear anything happy or positive. And so when I learned what the term boner meant, just boys on the recess chatting, I was like, oh, I learned what that was. And I thought there has to be something like that for me. And I never learned about it until I was, an adult. And so learning about my body and learning about pleasure and how to feel good about yourself is really what helped me thrive as a person. So I try to carry that on. It's supposed to be like a fun, upbeat term. I'm excited about something.
But you didn't really get a boner, right?
Well, actually, if you have a clitoris, you do get the equivalent of like a penis erection.
Really?
Yeah, when you're sexually turned on. Most of it's on the inside, though. Like most of the clitoris is internal, so it does get large as well. We just don't see it. We don't, we can hide ours easier.
You feel it, but you don't see it.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It totally is.
I noticed that women nowadays are into stuff like that. They want to feel what men feel. And so men tend to, men have been, well, not all men, but some men have been taught to make women feel that way. But I notice women who are getting that way, whatever.
Yeah.
They're becoming men because it's abnormal for a woman to climax and all that kind of stuff, right? And that women who are becoming that way are like men. Have you noticed that?
I've heard that take on it,
Yeah.
that women are being more like men.
Because it's not natural for a woman to be that way. It's natural for a man to be that way. But a woman have to make herself be that way, which makes her become like a man.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yes,
What do you think?
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I've heard. Definitely some folks believe that. I think that naturally we are built for pleasure and these things, but we learn a lot of things that teach us the opposite. So I think it's more, people telling us we need to be skinny and we need to have big boobs and present our sexuality in a certain way. And I think there's all these kind of rules that get put on us and we get sexualized in ways that don't feel good to us. And so what I see more of is women wanting to have these conversations and being able to learn about their bodies so that they do have good experiences. I don't think that women are trying to be like men. I think they're trying to be more authentic, in themselves. And it's not about like, sometimes people think that sexual empowerment or sex positivity is about like having as much sex as you can. And that's a myth,
Right.
I think it's really about embracing your sexuality, however that looks. It might mean that you don't have any sex. It might mean that you have more than one partner. It might mean that you save sex for marriage. Like your value system is a huge part of it.
If women never tried to make themselves be that way, they never tried to be like men in that way, and just naturally be a woman, just be a woman, naturally grow up, being a woman, and let things happen naturally, would they be into that like that?
I think they would be.
You think they would be unhappy?
Well, yeah, I think we've seen in culture over time and throughout history when women are told that they are not supposed to enjoy sex. Like, for example, I interviewed a woman who grew up in a religious cult, and she was taught that sex is not supposed to be pleasurable for a woman.
Right.
And it was really, really hurtful to her. So she couldn't enjoy sex when she did have a husband and she wanted to have a loving, intimate relationship and they wanted to have kids, and her body would just tense up and she couldn't even allow for intercourse to happen. So I think it is a very natural thing to let ourselves experience pleasure and evolve. It's just really hard when we hear these wonky messages. Like I said, like, oh, you're either a slut or you're a prude, right? I
Right.
don't think that's true. I think we're all just people. And
That's amazing.
yeah.
Women in the good old days, before the whole movement of women and stuff like that, normal women were not into sex like that. They just had sex. It was like a bang, 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 thank you, ma'am, kind of thing. And everybody was happy. It lasted
Were
a minute
they?
or two.
Yeah.
And the women were satisfied, the men were satisfied.
Oh.
What changed?
That's a really good question. Well, I think if you enjoy the wham bam thank you ma'am, that's great.
Right.
If you want to enjoy that and it works for you and your partner, that's great. I personally don't think that, I think a lot of people were unhappy. They just didn't talk about it. I think a lot of women, they were growing up with these rules around them and they felt very restricted. And so there was this word frigid, right? Like you.
Oh, yeah, I remember that word.
Yeah. And, I've spoken to women in their 80s and 90s who tell me that they had these desires and they always felt like they couldn't express them or they didn't have a word. They couldn't see their sexual identity represented in other women because no one was talking about it. So they felt very lonely and depressed and anxious. They weren't happy in their relationships. So I think there's been a lot of growth. I think there's still a lot of problems, but I think that there's also been more freedom, and I think it benefits men a lot. Because if a woman knows how her body works, then, because I think that guys, they want the woman they're with, if they're married to a woman, they want that woman to feel good. They care about her. So I hear from male listeners all the time they really want to know these things because they also didn't learn about women's bodies growing up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So sex is supposed to be pleasurable. There's a natural enjoyment, natural pleasure.
Yeah.
But it's not supposed to be pleasure. It's just lightweight pleasure.
Like a more serious pleasure, you're saying? Like,
Yeah, kind of. You got to have some pleasure in it
yeah.
in order to make everything happen. But it's not supposed to be to the point you go away from your natural self to make it happen.
Oh, where it kind of consumes your whole life kind of thing? Yeah, and you know what's interesting? I think that the more we try to like tell people not to be sexual or sex is bad or women should be sexual, I think it's easier to get obsessed with it. I think that we're not so focused on it when it's a natural part of our lives. So, I think there can be very pleasurable, I don't like the term casual sex personally.
Right.
Because I don't think sex is casual. I mean, I think you're doing something very intimate with someone. And even if you're not in a relationship with that person, you're not married, I think there should still be a lot of respect and care and honesty. You shouldn't say, because I grew up thinking any person I had sex with, I'm supposed to marry them, which led me to some not great relationships.
Right.
So I think it's helpful for us to have transparency and learn about things like boundaries and communication and consent. But yeah, I agree with you that it shouldn't be this like flippant nothing. I think it's an important thing, but it shouldn't be everything.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're not married and ready to make children, is it necessary to have sex? Why would you need to have sex if you're not married and you're not ready to make children? Why would sex be necessary?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if necessary would be the word. I think it's very important to some people. It's not very important to other people. But there is something really beautiful about that connection you can forge with somebody. I think you can learn a lot about your body. Now, you can learn about your body through self-pleasure too. If you are interested in like using a sex toy or just learning about your body through sensual massage, human touch can be very important. But sex is not the only way to accomplish those things. I do think it's helpful, especially if you didn't learn anything about sex, to learn something so that you can understand your body, so that if, let's say you decide that you want to save sex till you're married.
Right.
Ideally, you know how your body works and you know about sexuality enough that you can make for a more pleasurable experience once you are married. Because what I find is some people who do save sex for marriage, they also unfortunately didn't ever have the opportunity to learn anything about their anatomy or about what feels good for them. And then sex can be really scary and challenging. They get married and they heard, oh, it's supposed to be wonderful, and then it hurts.
Amazing.
You know, like it shouldn't hurt. Sex is supposed to feel good.
One of the quick things I think about that, and you're right, men love turning their wives or their girlfriends into sluts.
Oh.
They want you to do, they'll make you do whatever they want you to do, because the more you become a slut, or what they call whore, the better pleasure, more pleasure men get. So men love turning women into sluts, into whores. How come women, and there are some women that don't like it for their husband or boyfriend to turn them into a slut. They don't like that.
Okay.
But why do a lot of women today seem to love being turned into sluts?
So by slut,
Because
do you mean?
men gonna always see you as a slut. He may not tell you that, but in his mind, he know, I have this slutty wife or this slutty girlfriend.
Oh.
But the woman think, oh,
Yeah.
I'm being pleasured, but I'm being this.
Uh-huh,
But he
uh-huh.
sees her as a slut. And when the slut ran out with her, he's gonna go and find another woman and turn into a slut. Women don't mind being sluts.
So when you say slut, do you mean someone who's really into sex?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think it's interesting. I think that I don't think a man can turn a woman into a slut.
Oh, they can do it.
Yeah, how does it work?
Because they make you do it all kind of ways, all kind of normal ways,
okay.
abnormal ways, and blah, blah, blah.
Okay. So I don't think anyone should ever make someone do anything sexually.
Well, when I say make, I don't mean like they abuse you, tie you down. They know how to make a woman become a slut and make her do
to feel
sex
pleasure. But you
in all
mentioned
kind of
pleasure,
way.
so that's good. I mean,
why is it that women don't mind being sluts today when it comes to sex?
it's interesting. The term slut has gone through a whole history. Like, it used to be a really always negative word.
Right.
And some women have reclaimed it.
Yeah, I know.
And said, yes, it sounds like you know. Maybe some women who are really into sex, they talk about it. They're very out there with how much they love sex. And I think that can be great and healthy. And I also think women should have the option to not have to be super into sex, or to, maybe there's a period of your life, because I think this is true of all genders, is like there are times of your life that you're not going to be as interested in sex. Maybe it's stress, maybe it's you aren't sleeping enough, maybe it's, it could be so many different things. So I think that there's more freedom for folks to express themselves as they want to, but hopefully it's a mutually agreed upon thing. It makes me sad to think that a man might see his partner or his wife as someone who's only into sex, because I think we want to be three-dimensional people, who have personalities and bring so much more to the table.
Amazing.
Than that.
Do you know who Amber Rose is? You ever heard of her?
Oh, yes, I do. She started the Slut Walk.
Right. I remember she started the Slut Walk, and I interviewed her. And
Okay.
she had this whole, don't care, we slut, we do what we want,
Yeah.
blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And then, but she had a change of heart.
Okay.
She realized that it was wrong to present yourself as a slut and to encourage other women to be sluts. And she realized she didn't know what she was doing at the time.
Okay.
And I noticed that a lot of women regret later being sluts.
That's interesting. I think there is something that can happen where people, and this, I've seen this in other, men too, is like acting out sexually is different than expressing yourself sexually in a healthy way. And I have heard from people who feel like, you know, they were acting out because they'd gone through some trauma or
Right.
something like that. And I don't think that's shameful or regretful. That just is something that they had to go through. And I look more at the trauma as being a really bad thing in that case.
Yeah.
Do you find that the men who, as you were saying, like they turn them into sluts, do they also feel regret about how they were viewing the women?
Not really.
Oh, interesting.
And men see sex in a different way than women see sex. Well, women are different now a little bit, but men see sex as pure pleasure, pure sex, and it doesn't matter. They do whatever they do to get that thrill, right? And women used to see it in a different way than men do. And so that's why when men create one slut, whether it's a wife or a girlfriend, it's not, after a while, that slut going to be boring. I'm using the word slut because that's how they see it, right?
Okay.
And but after a while, that slut won't be enough. So they'll go find another woman and create a slut.
Maybe they should just get one of those sex robots. Have you heard about those?
No.
Yeah, they're now making these robots. They're built like people with AI intelligence.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Well, then they're not hurting someone.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Is sex love?
I don't think sex is love, but I think sex should be loving. And I think sex can be a beautiful part of love. And I also think you can have a beautiful love without sex.
Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Without it, right?
Totally. Yeah, totally.
Do a lot of women feel that way, that you could have a good relationship, beautiful love without the sex thing?
I think so. Yeah, and I've heard from men who also feel that way. I think that, you know, most people, sex is an act, and we all want love in our lives, you know? So
Right.
we might have that activity, but what would we rather have? An activity or to feel that intimacy and
Love,
that
yeah.
closeness and that love? And I think it's really powerful for everybody, all adults to have.
And so, how did you come up? Tell me again, how did you come up with this title, Girl Boner?
Yeah.
You just sitting around one day, walking down the road.
Thinking about girl boners.
Right.
That's what I do.
You're walking down the road, you're like, you know what? I'm going to start a show called Girl Boner.
That is an excellent question, Jesse. So really, I mean, I was only like 11 or 12 the first time I had curiosity about, I wasn't having those, the boners we talked about at that time. But I just remember that's when kids started talking about erections and boners.
Right.
And it was something just curious to me that we could learn these positive things, that a boy could grow up into be a man and then he could have pleasure, and that a girl could grow up into a woman and have periods. Like it didn't make sense to me, so I wondered. And then when I was in my late teens, I was in the fashion industry, and I ended up developing an eating disorder and really struggled with poor body image and depression and stuff. And what ended up helping me the most, like I went to therapy, I tried all the different things that are supposed to help you, but one day I was in a college class and we started talking about sexuality. And I realized it was the first time I'd ever really talked out loud about sex.
Yeah.
Like you weren't supposed to talk about it where I grew up. And so that really made me curious. Like, why didn't I learn more about my body? I didn't even know what a clitoris was at that time. I had sex. I had one serious partner who I thought I would marry, and we did not stay together. But we didn't talk about sex either. And so I started getting really curious. And so later, when I built my writing career and really grew in my own self-acceptance, I realized that this was a missing conversation that more people were starting to talk about, and certainly more now. But I felt like, especially when it comes to women and also queer people not embracing their body, like we need to learn how to live authentic lives and to be able to express our desires and also our boundaries if we do feel like someone is treating us, like objectifying us, to be able to talk about it. I think that's important.
Oh, okay. So it's normal for men to have orgasms, right? But it's abnormal for a woman because she has to make herself have it, where men have it naturally, right?
Well, women's orgasms are natural too, but it can take longer sometimes.
Right.
And certainly there are more obstacles because let's say there is a woman who feels like she's always been treated like a slut, as you were saying. Like maybe that wouldn't make me feel comfortable in my body, right?
Knowing that she's been
So-
treated like a slut.
Yeah, if I had always been treated that way, like
Right.
if someone looked at me and they didn't see a person, they just saw.
They just saw a slut.
Yeah, if all they saw was like someone who they could use for sex or something,
Yeah.
that doesn't make me feel good. So, so yeah, orgasms are harder when you don't feel good about yourself. But
Or
they're
are they
natural.
harder for women because they're not natural? They have to make it happen.
Well, I
Is
think
that possible that God didn't make women to have orgasm?
I actually don't think that's possible because did you know? So, you're familiar with like the clitoris? It's like the part of anatomy that it's the only part of a body that's designed only for pleasure.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, and so I don't think that would have been created. If you have a clitoris, you're supposed to have pleasure. So I think orgasms are natural. I mean, girls can have wet dreams. You know, it's a natural thing.
I was taught in school that the clitoris thing that a woman has
Yeah.
is because the woman is created in the image of the man, whereas men are created in the image of God. And so that little clitoris thing is just part of a penis thing.
You know what? They are anatomical equivalents.
Right.
Yeah. So like when people say you either have a penis or you have a vagina, that's not actually. They're not.
Right.
It's penis and clitoris are.
Right.
They're equal in anatomy.
Were you taught that in school?
Oh no.
Oh, you were not?
Oh my gosh. No, we weren't taught anything about pleasure. I mean, we were taught like how, a penis goes into a vagina and that's how a baby is made.
Okay.
And also we were taught don't ever have sex. Don't sit on toilet seats because you might get a sexually transmitted disease. Like,
Right.
and people still learn those types
Yeah.
of things. Yeah.
I read in your bio that embracing your sexuality helped you to heal from severe eating disorder.
Yes.
Why did you have an eating disorder problem?
I think I had a lot of shame about my body.
Really?
Yeah. There's so many influences that tell us we're supposed to look a certain way. And a lot of it had to do, I think, with, again, not learning about my sexuality, really healing that and realizing that I'm allowed to have pleasure and my body is great the way it is. Really
what
helped
was it
save
about
me.
your body? You love your body now? You like your body now?
I do. Yeah, I do.
What was it about your body at that time you didn't like?
I don't think it actually even was about my body, which is the weird
Right.
thing, right? Like
Yeah.
it's always about something
Something
deeper.
else, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was really low self-esteem and feeling a lot of shame. And so as I worked through the shame around sexuality and realized that I could be a sexual being, however that looks for me, that really, and it also gave me a purpose. I felt like this is something that I'm kind of, it's something that I could help other people with. So it's like something I could contribute to the world is to help other folks, especially women, but people of all genders feel better about themselves. I think that's healthy.
So do you have perfect peace now about everything? You have perfect peace?
That's such a good question. Perfect is such a, I don't know if I have perfect peace, but I do think I have peace. Perfect sounds a little lofty. Is it, can you have perfect peace?
Yes.
What is perfect peace?
I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
But so you have peace sometimes,
Oh yeah, I think I'm
but
generally
not perfect peace.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have a bad day, or like,
Yeah.
I might have a moment where I don't feel great about myself. I think that's pretty normal and natural. But now I have tools to like work through it.
Right.
And I think maturity and growth has helped a lot.
And when you say there are times when you don't feel great about yourself, right? What does that mean, and what does that mean?
Yeah. So I might feel a little insecure. Like growing up, I feel like I was a very outgoing person with lots of questions.
Right.
And when you're not allowed to talk about certain things, then you feel bad when you talk about things, So like when you blurt things out, or
Right.
I feel really good talking about sexuality. But I will, of course, have days where I, wonder if I'm good at X, Y, or Z, or maybe feel embarrassed that I said the wrong thing or something. I think we can all put pressure on ourselves, but I try to give myself grace.
Right on. Why do you not believe? You don't believe that it's possible to have perfect peace. Why not?
Yeah. I feel like the word perfect is hard for anyone to achieve with anything because it sounds to me like there's never any room for error or a challenge. So I think challenge is part of life, and it's, vulnerability is part of being human. So it's hard for me to imagine anyone being perfect at anything. Yeah.
Well, vulnerability is a weakness.
Oh,
Right?
interesting. I think it's a strength.
To be vulnerable?
Well, there's different,
For women, is it normal for women to be vulnerable? Right?
I think there's a type of vulnerability where it's allowing yourself to be fully seen by someone.
Right.
That's beautiful. That's part of intimacy. I think it can be part of sexuality and relationships. Vulnerable as in you're in danger, that is not good,
Right.
of course. Like that is
Physical danger.
right.
Okay.
Or
That's
emotional
different.
danger. Yeah, that's abuse, right? Like
Right.
I don't want people to be in danger. But I do think that there's something about that, you're exposing a part of yourself to be, whether it's physical, you're being sexual with someone, there's vulnerability inherent in sex for everyone.
Should a man be vulnerable?
Yes, it's very sexy.
A man to be vulnerable?
If it's the kind we were talking about where you're sharing a deep part of yourself, yeah, I think it's
Really?
beautiful. Yeah, if you share your feelings, if you allow yourself to cry, I think it's really healthy to express our emotions.
I
So,
mean, it's normal, abnormal for a woman. You say you're married, right?
I am.
You're
Mhm.
married. Is your husband vulnerable?
Well, he does express emotions to me, and that means a lot to me.
Really?
Yeah,
And
I think it's beautiful.
So why does that mean so much to you to see his weakness like that?
I don't see it as a weakness. So to me,
Oh,
it's
okay.
more like he's trusting me enough to be fully himself, to talk about his fears or things that stressed him out. It makes me feel closer to him. The same thing in friendships or with my sisters or my brother. Like
Wow.
I like that closeness that we can have when we are really honest with who we are, and I want to be able to support him and my other friends too.
How are you able to, how the order of is for women to follow men, to
Mm.
look up to men and see the right way to go, right?
It is. I'm aware of that belief.
Right. And so
Yeah.
how are you able to look
Yeah.
up to your husband when he's been vulnerable with you?
Mm. I think we look up to each other in different ways. I don't really see it as like a hierarchy where he's up here and I'm down here. I think of it more as like we're on equal plane.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm much happier. I have had a relationship in the past
Right.
that felt much more that way, and neither of us were happy with it.
Okay.
So for me, and I can only speak for myself because I know some people much prefer that. I like feeling like we're partners, not that we're like, he is the leader, I'm the follower. Like I have certain strengths that he leans on and he has strengths that I lean on, and that makes a happy relationship.
Do you obey him?
I don't think that I need to because he doesn't like instruct me. Like he doesn't command me. It's more like he will request things, and I will request things too. But when I hear the word obey, I really think like someone's like being very firm and directing me and pushing me around.
Right.
He would never do that.
And so do you obey him?
I'm going to say no.
You don't obey him.
No, there's no need though.
Really?
Yeah, I don't even think I have opportunities for that. Yeah.
So you don't even have an opportunity to obey him.
No, I mean if like we're watching a show and he's like, would you mind getting me a glass of water? I'm happy to get him a glass of water. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's obeying. Now, if he was like, get me a glass of water,
Right.
I would stay sitting down and say, what's wrong? Are you okay? Can
That's
we talk
amazing.
about this?
Amazing. Why is it that obey seems like such a negative, bad word to most women? When I ask, do you obey your husband, they always see it as a bad thing. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, the way that I think many of us understand it is that we are being commanded. Like there's this incredible amount of expectation. Now, there could be other definitions of obey, I don't know. Like if obey means like a polite request, that's different. So, but the women I know, like none of them want to be like ordered around.
I know.
So
That's a problem, though.
well, although some do, if they're in a relationship where there's like dominant and submissive,
Right.
like, and that can be either person can
But
be
that's
the
not a
dominant
normal
one.
relationship.
Well,
When
it's
it's
considered
dominant and submissive.
right. It's
That's
considered
not-
more.
that's not normal.
Well, I would say it's normal for people who are into it. It's considered not like traditional. It's considered a little. It's not what people grow up learning what a relationship is, but some people find a lot of healing through it or just fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that sex is like a drug to men? And then to a woman, she's like the drug dealer because she knows that the man loves the sex, so she uses sex to control him. And because he become addicted to sex, he keep coming back for the sex. So to a man, sex is like a drug, and women are sex dealers,
Ooh.
like a drug addict, a drug dealer. Have
Yeah.
you noticed that?
I have heard of that dynamic. I think that it can happen
Yeah.
for sure. I think when that happens, it comes from a pretty unhealthy place where they didn't learn anything about healthy relationships. They didn't learn about healthy sexuality or like how to communicate about sex or their desires. I don't think it's a healthy way to go about it.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think about women who use sex to control men, whether they're married or not? What do you think about women who use sex to control men?
As a side note, I have interviewed people where it was the opposite, where a man has used it to control the woman in a marriage. So it can go either way when that happens. I think it can come from a number of things. One would be, there are people who are very narcissistic or sociopathic. And again, that could be any gender of a person.
But
and
what do you think about women who use sex to control men?
I'd have to look at it case by case. I think that there are occasions where that happens as a result of the woman being controlled in other ways. Like she feels like she has no other option or tool, like it's because of the way sex has been treated in her world. So for example, I interviewed this woman who grew up in Russia, and she was taught, like, if you want to have safety, if you want to have a healthy, happy family life, you're going to have to woo and, lure in a man with your sexuality. She was taught that from when she was a little girl. Your family won't be safe if you don't do it. So I think it can come from that kind of a thing.
But what do you think about, because most, if not all, most women use sex to control men. What do you think about women who use sex to control men?
I don't think most do.
You do not?
No.
Why? Why do you think they don't?
Well, I talk to hundreds of women each year and many men and folks of all genders each year, and I have for like a decade.
Right.
And so occasionally I'll hear about something like that. But for the most part, I hear that folks want to have a healthy sexual relationship. They want to feel respected. They want to have pleasure. Whatever their desires are, they want them to be fulfilled. So I just don't hear about that. I think that when that happens, it's a sad situation, but I think it comes from much deeper issues.
Should a man ever tell a woman his problems?
Yeah.
Show a weakness to a woman? Should he ever tell a woman his problems?
Sure.
And why?
Think so. Yeah.
Why?
I think so, because I think that if you care about someone, you want to be supportive of them. So I want to be able to be helpful. If a man comes to me, if it's a friend, if it's my brother, if it's my husband, if it's my dad, I would much rather know what they're dealing with so I can be supportive than have them like hide it from me.
But women can't even solve their own problems. That's why they look to men to help them overcome their hell.
You think so?
How can a woman help? Because she judges him. You know how when a man does tell a woman his problem, whether it's his wife or his mother or anyone, she judges him and she never forget it.
Ooh, that
50 years go by.
Oh That's
Have you
sad to
noticed
me,
that?
Jesse. I haven't noticed that.
You have not noticed that?
No.
Really?
No, that makes me sad. I mean, everybody meets someone who like holds a grudge. Everybody, like, but in my close circles and the people I talk to, I've not talked to any. Okay, so there's one example of like when sometimes women feel overburdened because men don't feel like they can talk to other men about their problems either. They've been taught that that's a weakness. So then they just dump all their problems on the woman in their life.
I've seen that, yes.
Yeah, and I think that can be, that's not really fair to either of them. Like, I think that, again, men, if they learn that being vulnerable to show your true self and to have challenges, if that makes you weak, and then they rely heavily on one woman, but that woman is being relied on by her husband, by her brother, by her dad, that's a lot to carry. So I don't think that's a great situation.
Were women created to lead or to follow?
I think both, and I think it depends. Like, I think we all have different strengths. So I think we should lead in certain scenarios, and I think also some women are just born more to, like, their personality is much more, they want to be a leader. And I think it's helpful for all of us to lead sometimes and to follow sometimes.
But were they created by God, women? Were they created by God to
Yeah.
lead or to follow? I know that they try to lead, right?
Yeah.
And they want to be in that way, but were they created by God to lead or to follow?
I believe that they were created to do both. I really do.
Why do you believe that?
I really do. So, like, for an example, let's say there's a very like traditional relationship where the man is more of the dominant leader in the household and the woman, maybe she stays home and cooks and takes care of kids, for example. That woman is still leading, and she probably is in charge of the groceries that come into the house. She probably has to run the household like a business. That's a lot of work. So I just don't think that any woman, whether she is staying at home with kids or whether she is, not in a relationship with a man or whether she's working in an office, I just don't think that we're designed just to do one or the other. Now, there are certainly these like ideas around masculinity and femininity and stuff, and people feel different like connections to that.
Right.
I think it's really personal. It's up to us what we want.
But a married woman is under the umbrella of a man, right? And so she's still getting, like she know to go cook and clean and do all that, but she's still getting her guidance or instruction from her husband, right? Because
Sometimes.
Because he's even telling her, like when there are issue with the children, she let him know about it and he settled the issue. Am I right?
I think in some circumstances, for sure. It really depends on the relationship. Now, I'm married. I don't clean that much. I'm not really good at it. I often hurt myself when I clean. It's
you
like,
hurt yourself when you clean?
Yes.
What do you mean?
I'm a little klutzy. I'll do like a little cleaning, but my husband's really good at cleaning the floors. Like, it's situation by situation. Oh, yeah.
So
he's
your
great at it.
husband clean?
He learned it in the military.
You have children?
Nope.
Oh.
We have animals.
You have animals?
Yes.
What the?
And they are messy. Yeah.
And so your husband clean and he cooks and all that kind of stuff?
I probably cook more often, but he cooks sometimes too. He makes amazing pancakes. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is. I love it.
That's amazing. I've noticed in today's world that, and I hear it all the time, that women today don't make for good wives and mothers.
Oh.
And so, and it seemed to be around the clock. It seemed to be women who are educated. And so I tell men now, if you want a family, don't marry a woman that's educated because she does not make for a good wife or a good mother. And am I wrong? Or do you agree or disagree with that?
I think it's wonderful to marry an educated person if you're compatible with them. But what you're describing, so for example, if you are someone who wants to have a very traditional man goes to work, woman stays home relationship, and you date a woman who has her PhD in biology and she has a massive career and she's very busy and doesn't want kids, don't get married. I think I think that educated women make incredible partners and wives and mothers.
But
And
they
I think
don't
you
want
can
to
do
stay
both.
home. They
Well,
don't want to stay home and
mm,
be a mother. They want to be
mm,
equal. You know how women
yeah.
like to believe that they're equal to men. They
Yeah, we
always
do.
want to be equal to men. So
Yep.
they don't want to stay home and watch over the man's children because
Mm.
it doesn't, the thrill is not good enough, right?
Uh,
They want the thrill of being recognized, get trophies at work, and people say how
mm.
great you are. And I've heard women say, well, they don't get the same thrill when they raise children.
Ah.
What do you
You
think
know,
about
some
that?
women
And
don't.
that's why they don't make for good wives and
Ah,
mother.
interesting. Yeah, I think there are certainly people who feel that way. I think it varies so much, though. I know a lot of women who really prefer to like work part-time and also be home part-time. I know a couple I'm really close to, they both work from home and they split the childcare. And it works really great for them. So like, I think there are ways to work around that, but what you're really getting at is people's values, right? Their values, their priorities, and those are conversations to have before you get married, right? You don't want
Right,
to
absolutely.
marry someone and then realize like, oh,
Yeah.
no one wants to stay home. Well, someone's got to be with the kid or maybe you choose daycare, but if you're both against daycare and you're both going to be gone, you shouldn't really be having kids together, right? So it really comes down to knowing what you really want and need and also having those conversations.
Uh, do you agree with me that a man that stays home and let his wife go to work is a weak man?
I don't.
You don't?
I
But
think
he
it's
become the
great.
woman.
Well, I think
A man that stay home and clean and
mm,
wash dishes and make meals and
yeah.
carry the baby in a pouch in front of him. That's a
Mhm.
weak man, right?
I don't think so.
But that's a woman man.
I don't see it that way.
Why not?
I see where that comes from though, because for so long, that's what so many people learned is women only had this option and men had this option. I think it's beautiful for a man to take care
Really?
of kids.
But that's such a
Yeah,
beta male.
that's okay.
Would you want a beta husband or alpha husband?
That's a good question. Is there a C option? I want a C, a blend.
There's no C.
Okay.
You either beta or you're alpha.
Oh gosh. I think it's a really hard question to answer. When I think of beta, I think of being a little more cooperative. So maybe I would choose that. I definitely don't want a partner who is like commanding me around and makes all the rules and tells me what to do. My personality is not really good with that.
Really?
Yeah, you might have picked up on that.
So you prefer a weak man over a strong? You
I
prefer a weak
see-
man rather than a strong man?
I think there's strength in gentleness, and I think there's strength
Gentleness?
in yeah,
What?
yeah, I do.
Are you educated?
You mean did I like go to college? I went to
Right.
college. I studied psychology in college, and then I have a certification in sex education. I
So
did.
you have a degree.
I have certifications.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Are you a feminist?
Yes. Now, I have a feeling your definition of feminist might be different from mine. I'm not sure. How do you define
At
it?
this point, I don't have a definition.
Okay.
Yeah, but are you a
Yeah.
feminist?
I think I am. Yeah. Because I know some people are a little leery of the term because they think it's anti-men.
Right.
I'm not anti-men.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think men are fabulous.
But you believe you're equal to a man.
Yeah. I think we have all equal value. I think.
But that doesn't make sense.
It does to me.
Let me ask. So that you prefer a weak man, a beta male over an alpha male?
If it's between someone bossing me around and someone being cooperative, yes.
Really?
Yes.
And so would you consider your husband beta or alpha?
He would hate having a label. That I know about him.
But how do you really see him?
I see him as being awesome. I think he's,
That means beta,
right? Yeah, he'd be more cooperative. Like if he had to be one of the two, he's a very kind, strong, caring, determined guy. Intelligent, funny, strong, yeah.
But beta.
Yeah, if we're looking at it as
What the-
cooperative. Yeah, but again, we're seeing the terms a little bit different. But I like having more options than like this extreme or this extreme. I think so much of life comes down to this like middle area. And I think getting comfortable with that is really healthy.
Are you a Christian?
I don't consider myself Christian because I'm not religious. I definitely live by what I've learned, like what I know of Jesus being very caring and love one another. Like that's a really important value to me.
Right.
I think religion can be a wonderful thing. I'm definitely spiritual. I think there's a higher power. There's like more than us. Like there's a lot we don't know. I pray and or meditate. I think that it's a really beautiful part of life to have a spirituality. But I don't call it Christian just because I'm not like I don't go to church every Sunday. Like I think that's a whole commitment that I really respect, but it's not what I do.
You're spiritual, not Christian.
Yeah, more like spiritual, like Gnostic-y, somewhere in there.
And what is spiritual? What does that mean?
It means that I believe there's a connectedness amongst people. I think there's more than just like the physical world. I do sense some sort of like higher power is the way people describe it often. I don't know what happens after we die. I think that there's more to life than just we're flesh and then we're not. Like I think that there is something very spiritual about being a human. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you say you're Gnostic or something? Did I hear you say
Kind of
word?
agnostic, where
Agnostic?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. What does that mean?
It means that I don't not believe in God, but I'm open to there being a God, and I'm open to all these ideas. I
Okay.
just don't feel like I have all of the answers.
Right.
Yeah.
Is God a man?
No.
He's not a he?
Well, often,
Is he a he?
I don't mind using he for God.
So God is a he?
God could be a he.
Yeah.
Or a she or a they. I have no idea.
So you think God could be a she or a they?
Yeah.
You think God
I think God doesn't have a gender identity.
Really?
Yeah.
So how can he be a she or a they then?
Those are just words that humans use. I
Oh.
don't think that, I think God's above human stuff. Like, I don't think that there's a lot of like labeling going on.
So when you pray to God, you go, oh God, he or she or they, help me.
That could work actually, but I don't put pronouns into prayers. I mean, sometimes my prayers are just me thinking out loud to like, I don't always address like dear God. Sometimes I say
Right.
God, but yeah, I don't really see a specific gender, and that works for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
What would happen if you drop your anger right now?
dropped my anger.
If you got rid of all the anger right now, you just drop anger
Mhm.
and never be angry again, what would happen to you?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think anger can be a really healthy emotion. Honestly, it's not one that I'm prone to. Like, I just have never been someone, it's actually been harder for me to kind of access my anger. I think in therapy, when I was going through the eating disorder stuff, I had a healthy anger. I think it can be healthy, it can also be destructive. But I had to get angry at certain things, like these messages that women are supposed to look a certain way. It was really healthy for me to get angry about that because I'd been internalizing it. So I think healthy expressions of anger and acknowledging your anger can be healthy. I think it's how we act on it and if we act on it. And I try to be a very kind person.
And so what would happen if you dropped the anger and never had anger again?
I might be really happy.
You might be
Maybe.
happy,
I mean, if you're never
So-
angry, well, you could be frustrated, scared,
but you
right?
can't be frustrated if you don't have anger.
Oh, well, then there you go. I'm happy.
So what would happen if you drop all your anger and never got angry again?
Yeah. Sounds kind of peaceful.
So why don't you drop your anger?
Okay.
Why do you hold on to it?
I don't know if I do. That's a good. I'm gonna have to ponder that one. I don't know if I hold on to anger. How do I know if I'm holding on to anger?
You don't know if you get angry at times?
I do. I guess I maybe get angry sometimes, but it's not a big issue in my life.
But what's the purpose of getting angry, period?
Mm.
Why get angry at all?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think sometimes anger can lead us to do a positive action. So if you're angry that someone is hurting someone and you get them help, that was good, right?
And what's good about that?
Because now the person who is getting hurt hopefully won't be hurt anymore.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you believe it's possible to live a life without anger, period?
I imagine, yeah. I mean, I've seen some very Zen monk Buddhist people who are just always peaceful.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, maybe they have anger too. I don't actually know. I don't have the answer to that. I'm sorry.
Do you create your own thoughts?
Ooh, that is a really fascinating question. I don't feel like I do, but I do think that our thoughts come from so many, like they're influenced by our reality. So we can change things in our lives and then that will change our thoughts. So for example, if I'm having a lot of negative thoughts about what I look like or my relationship or anything, and I then make changes, then I won't be having all those negative thoughts. But yeah, I don't think that we like plan out our thoughts though, that we choose, this is what I'm gonna think today. I think thoughts they're always there. I have lots of them.
And they come from where?
They come from where? I think they come from our reality, from our brains. And thoughts and feelings are very different too. So, you know, we can have a negative thought. It doesn't mean that we're gonna act on it. And sometimes we should.
And we said thoughts and feelings are different. What do you mean by that? How are they different?
So like I can have the thought, you know, that person shouldn't be wearing those shoes. How dare they wear those ugly, ugly shoes, right? So that's a thought. A feeling would be having this like deep frustration that they're wearing these shoes, right? And then there's your action. Like, am I going to tell that person that they should change their shoes? Or am I gonna work with myself and be like, you know what? Maybe you should question that thought. Maybe you should ask yourself if that's really important. And is it even your business?
But you can't have feelings unless you have thoughts.
That's a good point. They're very connected.
Feeling confirm the thought, so you can't have the feeling unless you have the thought. Have you noticed that?
That's true. Yeah, they're connected.
Right. So why not get rid of the thoughts so you don't have the feelings?
Ooh, but wouldn't I have to like cut out my brain for that?
What do you mean?
How do you get rid of your thoughts?
By dropping your anger.
Oh, okay. Huh. This is fascinating. I'm going to think about this one.
Yeah. And do you want to know how to drop your anger?
Yes.
You do want to know?
Yeah, tell me.
You got to forgive your mother.
Oh, okay.
Your mother recreated you in her image. You became like her. Have you forgiven her?
I think I have a really, really great relationship with my mom. And there have been things that she's forgiven me for and things I've forgiven her for, yeah.
So have you gone to her, forgiven her for the trauma she brought upon you?
Yeah, I mean, I've forgiven her she did apologize to me once for something that she felt like had made, you know, things tough for me, and I totally forgave her. Yeah, I feel like I saw her forgive someone who hurt her. There was a family member who was abusive toward her.
Right.
And when that person was dying, she forgave him in front of me. She walked up to him and she was talking to him, and she's very religious and she was praying, and she forgave him. And I think she wanted me to see that. You know, I think it's a big value for her. So I think we all deserve that chance.
And so have you apologized for resenting her for what she done to you? Recreating you in her image.
I haven't really thought that she's done that exactly.
But how do you think you became like her then?
You know, I'm like her in some ways, but I'm also definitely my own person.
But how do you think you became like her? Because that's the last thing you want to be, is like your mother. How do you?
I got a cool mom though.
But how do you think you became like your mother?
Yeah, I appreciate that I have her spunk. Like she's a very adventurous person, and you know how I said like I blurt things out and sometimes feel like, oh, should I have said that? I get that from her for sure. So there's things I've gotten from her, but I'm grateful to have I'm really grateful to be like my mom. I'm also like my dad.
I was going to ask you, what would happen if you went to your mother and forgave her for turning you away from your father, and your father for not protecting you from your mother? What would happen?
Well, they would think
they
would think something's really wrong because that didn't happen. Like that, I don't think that happened at all. So
it happened.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Think about it. Let me know.
Okay, I'll get back to you.
So are you into politics at all?
I mean, I think that I don't know into it as far as like I'm passionate about. Like it's not a topic that I love studying.
But you do.
But I think about it, and I think it's a big part of our lives these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you vote for the Great White Hope?
I did not vote for Donald Trump.
You did not?
No.
And why not?
I-
Why not?
I really believed and still believe that Kamala Harris would be a better president.
So you are a feminist.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely believe in,
Well, but
Yeah.
what's it? Camilla Harris has nothing to offer. But-
I don't think so.
What does she have to offer to America?
Oh my gosh. I think
What does she
she's
have?
brilliant
In
and
what way?
caring, and she has so much experience. Yeah.
What is it that you dislike about the great white hope, Donald Trump? What do you dislike about him?
You know, there are a lot of things, but one thing that's really hard is I think I do think he's hurt women in particular. Like he's even bragged about like some terrible things he's done to women, and I think that he is more about himself than like necessarily helping a lot of people. And to me, I don't think there's like a perfect candidate anywhere, but I think that our country is so divided, and I would love for us to really care more about one another.
Really?
Yeah.
And so you've been there 100 days as of right now.
Mm.
Is there one thing you agree with him that he's done to make America great again? One thing.
I haven't heard of one.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Shutting down the border, not one?
Yeah.
Are you for open borders?
I mean, I think there needs to be some regulation, but I think that a lot of people are being punished for things that they didn't do, and I think America was built on immigrants. I think immigrants are
So
wonderful
you're for
people.
open borders?
I'm more for open borders than closed borders, but I'm not like thinking like totally open. I think that there should be, we need to have some reasonable things in place. I think Kamala Harris felt that way.
Well, she didn't do
So-
anything about the border when she was there. She stayed away from the border.
Well, she was
as
vice president. Yeah, I don't
But that
know.
was her job.
Mm.
They gave her that job to handle the border, and she never showed up.
Oh, well, I still think she would have done a better job.
Really? Amazing.
Yeah.
So let me ask. Are you happy that Donald Trump is shipping the illegal aliens back to their countries, especially the criminal? They're all criminals if they're here illegally, right? But especially the rapists, the murderers, the spousal abuse of women, and all that. That's did that to the woman. Are you happy Donald Trump shipping them back to their countries?
Well, I'm not actually. I think
You're not?
I think we're missing the due process, and I think
An illegal alien doesn't deserve a due process in our country. What do you mean? So you're not happy he's shipping the rapists, the murderers,
well, I mean,
the Crips
rapists
and
and
the Bloods
murderers.
and all that back?
I think rapists and murderers definitely should not be, given the same freedoms as people who are not. Like, I think that there needs to be punishment, or like there needs to be recourse. There needs to be response to that. But I think that, there are people who went about things the right way. They surrendered themselves at the border. They have families and they're caring people. And, there was one person who the only thing he had was like expired tags on his car.
But it was illegal.
Yeah, but he shouldn't be shipped to another country for that.
Why not?
I mean,
Why
I
not
had
ship him
expired
back home? That's a nice,
tags and,
kind favor to send him back home. He broke the law by coming here, so that make him illegal, right?
I don't think we're going to agree on this one, Jesse.
Oh, you're not?
I mean, I'm not like.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Isn't that like amazing?
It is amazing.
So you're not even happy that Donald Trump's shipping the criminals back?
I don't think that he's going about things in a measured or lawful way. And I think that a lot of people are being punished who should not be and did not do anything bad.
So even if they broke the law, they didn't do anything bad.
Well, break the law is such like a broad thing. I mean, if it's expired tags, no, please don't send someone's dad.
So if somebody
some other
break into your
country.
home and you don't want them arrested unless they have an expired tag.
Oh, I didn't say that. No, I mean, I think
They're
that
breaking into our home, our country.
if someone breaks into my home, then, I want someone to tend to that. Like, I think that there are repercussions, and
But
I
why
want to be
don't
safe.
you want the
for
same thing
sure.
for the country when they break into the country?
That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think that most of them are criminals.
So you don't think anyone that comes here illegal, are they breaking the law or are they keeping the law?
Well, I think a lot of them are going about it in, a much more reasonable way than, just like they're not coming in to just like come in and like hurt people. I think that If they come in illegally,
Are they breaking the law?
I don't know. I'd have to like go
You don't
case
know
by
if
case.
they're coming here illegally. You don't know if they're breaking the law?
When they surrender themselves at the border, I don't think that that's illegal.
When they're coming here illegally, are they breaking the law?
Okay, so if they come here illegally, they probably are breaking the law.
I'm black and slow, so I really want to know.
Okay.
If they're coming here illegally, are they breaking the law?
Anyone who does anything illegal, yes, is breaking the law.
When they come here illegally, are they breaking the law?
Yes.
Oh.
If they're doing something illegal, yes.
No,
they're breaking
if
the law.
they're coming, when they come into the country illegally, are they breaking the law?
So if someone is in a really desperate situation and they flee their country because they're in a war-torn place and they have no opportunities for their kids and they surrender themselves because they want to protect their family, do you feel that that person should be prosecuted
When
for
they
that?
come here illegally, are they breaking the law?
Yes, I think we covered that one.
Nice.
Yes.
So I got to ask, do you love Donald Trump?
No.
You don't love Donald Trump?
There's not many people that I don't like. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know him personally, right?
Right.
Everything that I know about him, I really do not love. I have felt a lot of pain and sadness over the things he's been doing.
So you say you don't love Donald Trump?
I don't really have love for him, no.
Really? Do you love white people?
I love people in general.
Do you love white people?
I love white people, and I love people of other colors too.
Do you love white people?
You're tough, yes. I love white people, and I love other people.
What?
I love people of all colors.
No, do you love white people?
Yeah, in general. You like one-word answers. That's very hard for me, Jesse.
And what's wrong with the blacks?
What do you mean?
What's wrong with the
What's
blacks?
wrong with the blacks?
Yes.
I don't think there's something wrong with the blacks.
You know?
Like all blacks, you think there's one big problem with all the blacks?
What's wrong with the blacks?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
I think black people deserve respect. I think white people deserve respect.
But I'm asking, what's wrong with them, the blacks?
I think you're gonna have to tell me because I don't know what you're getting at.
You don't see anything wrong with the blacks? Really? How do you feel about whites being under attack and being blamed for everything? The blacks and now other racist people doing it too, but they blame white people for everything. Everything racist. The white man tried to hold me down.
Yeah.
What do you think about people the blacks who are blaming someone else for their lack of? What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I think white people have caused more problems to black people than the other way around.
Like what?
I think there's still a lot of racism in our culture. Yeah.
Meaning, and what is racism?
It would be treating certain races, with less respect than others, or doing hateful things toward one race, or judging a person purely on their race, and also just denying. Like, I think it's racist to think that that racism isn't a part of our lives. Like, I think it's in the fabric of our country still.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's wrong with the blacks that they think white people are superior to them? Because anyone that think they can hold them down, then you got to be thinking, that person is superior to me. Why do black people believe that white people are superior to them?
Well, I think that white people often act superior to them. I don't
that's why
think
they think that?
I think a lot of black people I know, I don't think they actually think white people are superior.
But they have to be thinking
But they know
that,
they have more power.
But they have to be thinking that if they think that someone can hold them down, you got to believe that that person is superior to me because that person can hold me down, can stop me.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it's kind of
Are you surprised that the
systemic.
black people think white people are superior to them?
I mean, I think that in those scenarios, that's what's set up. I mean, the white people have the power in that situation.
Right on. So you agree that white people are superior?
In certain circumstances.
Right on.
Yeah.
There you go. So listen.
Yes, Jesse.
I got to put you on the hot seat.
Oh, hotter? It's already really warm here. Okay, heat it up.
I need you to answer these questions as quickly as possible.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
The hot seat.
Do you believe in evolution?
Yes.
What is a man?
A male adult person
Do we need more white babies?
than we have now.
No, do we need more white babies?
I think the white baby birth rate is doing okay.
Have you ever seen a ghost?
I don't know.
Is the earth flat or round?
It's very round.
True or false? When she's crying, she's lying.
Usually false.
Which is worse, abortion or slavery?
Slavery.
Should we give the blacks reparations?
Yes.
Does the bear shit in the woods?
Yeah, I hope. Otherwise, he's in my bathroom.
Is it ever okay to call the woman fat?
Rarely.
True or false? Sending your child to a public school is child abuse.
False.
False?
I went to public schools. It was great.
False. You said false?
Sending them to public schools is, what did you say?
I'm sorry?
What was the question?
I said true or false? Sending your child to a public school is child abuse.
That is false. It's not abusive.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What is love?
Ooh, love is compassionate action.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Did you have fun?
I did, Jesse. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Did you have fun?
I had an amazing time.
Oh, good.
So tell the people how to get your radio show, your
Yeah.
website, whatever you want to put out.
Yes. So I have Girl Boner Radio is my podcast, and people can subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can also listen on YouTube. And then I have several books I've written, a thriller, 2 sexuality books, and a book about pleasure and trauma. And you can learn about those at augustmclaughlin.com.
Repeat that.
augustmclaughlin.com.
Right on.
McLaughlin is McLaughlin.
Right on. Well, thank you for
Right
coming on.
on.
And thanks for taking on the hot seat.
Yeah. Thank you, Jesse.
You're welcome. Thank you all for tuning in. I absolutely appreciate it. Don't forget, you can become a member of The Fallen State now by going to the YouTube channel there, TheFallenState.tv or locals.com. And check out our merch. We have amazing merch, and especially Punchy's Coffee. And don't forget to support us. If you have another guest or anyone you'd like to see on the show here, contact my producer at thefallenstate.tv. Producer at thefallenstate.tv, all right? And let me hear from you. Like, follow, subscribe, ring the bell. Y'all know what to do. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for coming again.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Nice.
Yay. Oh, that was fun.